Hello there, folks. So at first I tried to do this as a pre-recorded video, but for some really strange reason, when I know that I'm actually live and I'm actually talking to you, even though there's none of you watching right now, I'm somehow better at staying coherent and on message, not umming and ahhing and pausing. And yet when it's pre-recorded, I'll mess up after the first 15 seconds and I'll go, no, 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 that's no good. I'll start again. It's a strange little thing that. But anyway, I wanted to do something on YouTube. I wanted to come chat to you guys for a little bit. But to be honest with you, I really didn't want to do politics. I've kept an eye on like the party conferences and stuff over the past few weeks. But I'm just you know what I'm like. I burn hot on it, I burn cold on it, and I'm definitely cold on it at the moment. I think I'm feeling a little bit of a political burnout. So instead, I thought I would share some more of my art with you because it is something that I'm fairly passionate about, and I've been doing it for a little while now. I've been painting for I want to say getting on for about 10 years now, sort of like as a hobby, and I'll have bursts of really being into it, and then long periods of time where I just don't touch it. A little bit like the YouTube channel, ho ho. Um, but over time, I've sort of, I mean, to be honest, I've usually tried to sell most of the paintings that I've done after I do them, not least to sort of clear out space for one thing, but also to then have money that I can then reinvest into more supplies to buy more equipment and do more painting. It's a nice little circular economy I have going on there. Um, but I've got to the point now where I've got enough of these things lying around that I thought, you know what? I'll show off some more to the YouTube viewers, not least because it may be interesting for you just to see what sort of stuff I do in my spare time. But also, last time I did manage to get a little bit of interest of people who wanted to buy some, and you know, until the AI takes over and universal basic income for everybody, we all need to make a quick buck here and there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of talk about some of my art, show it off to you, and indeed, if any of you would like some of these pieces, you can always contact me, and I will do you a nice Swissy deal on it as well. Um, so where to begin? Well, this one's staring at me to begin with, so I'll show this one up to you. This one I do a lot of pieces that I would say are unintentionally self-portraits. And what I mean by that is I don't set out to paint myself at the beginning, but then after I'm slowly doing a face and more and stuff, by the end of it, I'll go, okay, well, I've given him a beard and I've given him hair, blah, blah, blah. And then by the end, I go, I guess it is a little bit of a self-portrait, isn't it? The same thing even when I'm doodling as well. Like this, and you don't even want to see my doodles, but like I found this that I've done sort of a few weeks or a few months ago, and inside I don't even remember doing it, but inside of this little diamond there appears to be some kind of a vague self-portrait type thing as well. So I just find that interesting that maybe and I don't know whether it's just me or whether it's other people, but just a tendency over time to drift towards drawing yourself. But this fellow looks very agitated. He's clearly got too many teeth, and he's got white hair like Father Christmas. But nonetheless, you know, I think that there's a nice emotional beat to this, like anguish, maybe some kind of a negative emotion. There's definitely something going on there, something deep about the state of the human condition or whatever. So this is the thing. I sell myself very short. If only I was willing to really sort of glaze on the bullshit and stick the pinky out and tell you all these highfalutin concepts about all this art. Maybe it would sound like there's a lot more going on there. Maybe then that's how people would latch onto it and go, "Oh wow, this artist! What deep things? What meaning? You know, the existential crisis of the human being in the modern age, both trying to exist and at the same time feeling in conflict with his own self. Shit like that, you know." But anyway, there's this one. As a final observation, I also think sometimes these kind of paintings look a little bit like that mask that follows you around in Crash Bandicoot. Aku. It's been years since I've played it, but there we are. Shockwave is here in the chat. Hello there, Shockwave. I can get some live feedback. This is wonderful. The white hair makes me think Corbyn for a moment. Then the orange skin made me think of a rather different person. Wow. A Corbyn Trump hybrid. Well, I managed to make it about 4.5 minutes without veering into politics. We did fairly okay there. Right, this next thing I'm going to show you, this, as you can probably see, is a version of Starry Night by Van Gogh. Now, sadly, a bit of it's been cut off. It once upon a time lived on an actual canvas. But years back when I was moving house at some point, I had to strip down all the things that I owned to the bare minimum. So a lot of paintings, I literally just sliced and cut them out of their canvases so I could keep them as little sheets of canvas instead. So this has just been sort of sitting loose with a bunch of the other stuff. But for some reason, I rarely ever try to paint things that other people have done, like replicate other bits of art, apart from Starry Night by Van Gogh. Uh, it's probably my favorite painting. Not that I'm a fantastic connoisseur of all the art and paintings that exist out there, but there's something about it that I find really, really eye-catching. I like the sort of the Van Gogh style, where it'll be these different brush strokes of color that sort of together make something a bit more see, I'm lacking the vocabulary to describe it. I'm wanting to say cosmic here, but that's only because of the sky in this. But you know, a sort of a depicting reality, but obviously in a very unreal kind of way. If that makes any kind of sense. But there's another version of this that's a little bit bigger, hanging up downstairs. So I can do this, boys and girls. If you want commissions or something that looks a little bit like a proper painting, there you go. The bigger one's actually better than this one. But yeah, Van Gogh Starry Night. That's one of the favourites. Right, we'll move on now to what I call some of my busy paintings, and indeed a lot of them are quite busy. But ethereal, says Shockwave. Ethereal is a good word, Shockwave. I like that. Yes, yes, ethereal. Pretend I said that the first time round. So these are my busy paintings, and generally so we've got one here, for example. Generally, the way that these go is that in fact, the way that most of my paintings go is that I start off with a few brush strokes. I don't know what I'm doing, so I come into it, but I'll do more lines, I'll do more colors, I'll just layer things on together that look aesthetically pleasing in the way that the colors clash with one another. And eventually, over time, I'll spot one or two bits of the painting that I go, oh, that could be a tree. Oh, that could be a building. That could be the sky, and that could be the ground. But it's sort of, I come to that conclusion in the process of making it. And then once I've decided on that, I'll start deliberately going, okay, I'll add in a building, I'll add in a this, that, or the other. But it evolves quite naturally to begin with. So this one, I think I've got this one up on the eBay. This one, I don't know how clearly you can see it with the camera, but in the end, I decided it was supposed to depict sort of like a city with multiple natural disasters happening to it. You've got like a big fire that's happened. You've got like a tsunami wave that's rushing in. You might be able to pick out certain things from it, like little squares that look like buildings. Obviously, you can see the blues for the water, the sort of the yellows and the oranges for the fire. But obviously, it's very busy, and it's one of those paintings that people will look at it and they'll probably look at it and see slightly different things. Some of them will spot some of the things that I put in there and I thought that's what it looks like. Other people might see different things, but at the very least you get your general clash of different colors and forms, and at the very least you can tell it's deliberate. As chaotic and messy as it is, there's been some deliberate choices that have been put into it. It's not just a load of pollocks, which brings me on to my next one. This I would like to describe as a load of pollocks. I think that for his time, no doubt, Jackson Pollock and all of his big paint drippy stuff that he did, you know, it was new, it was fresh. Other people hadn't been doing that kind of thing. But I feel that that kind of art has given abstract expressionism a bit of a bad name sometimes, because people will look at that kind of art and their first instinct will be to go, well, that's really easy. Anyone can do that. Blip, blip, blip. Put some paint on the canvas. There we go. I've made some abstract expressionist art. Can I now sell it for £500,000, please? And this was sort of like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek effort at trying to do one of those, because it's basically it's got nothing to it beyond colors. It's literally just layering upon layering upon layering, lots and lots of colors. Sometimes when you get to the end of a little tube of acrylic paint and it's pretty much ran out, you can squeeze it and it sort of puffs it out in a little splatter effect, and that's what you can see with the whites here. It's sort of spread out quite nicely in lots of little places. That's quite good, by the way, if you're painting, if you're trying to do like stars or something outer spacey or the second time I've used the word cosmos or cosmic. That's quite a good little thing for that one. But the thing is, I can churn these out at a ridiculous rate. The problem is that personally, I just don't find it. I'm proud of the paintings I do. That I feel that it's been a challenge for me to do it, if that makes sense. That I've been pushing myself beyond what's easy for me to do, and this kind of thing I find quite easy to do. And I think actually, pretty much anyone out there with a little bit of you know, training or guidance on it could produce something like that without too much difficulty. You see what I mean, boys and girls, about selling myself short? Here I am. Maybe someone out there looks at this and goes, "Wow, look at that! All the colours, all the vibrant. Oh, it's wonderful!" And then I'm just going, yeah, anyone can do that. But here we are. This one's a load of bollocks. If you enjoy that. Shockwave says Modern Mind would be a good title. Is that for the one that I just held up, or is that for the one of the earlier ones? What else do we have here? This one I will call a minor load of bollocks. It's not quite in the style, but nonetheless, it's a very sort of, I don't want to say low effort painting. I really am selling myself short here. The thing is, as well, a lot of these, some of these will tend to be works in progress as well. So this one, for example, like if someone said to me, "I really love it, Swiss, I'll buy it from you," then I'll go, "Yeah, that's finished." But otherwise, this is the sort of thing that could sit somewhere for about half a year. I come back to it another time, and maybe I start adding more little bits to it, or maybe I just decide that the entire thing is going to be used as the background for a new painting that I'm going to paint over the top of it. But this one in particular reminds me a little bit of when you see on the weather, they'll like show the little arrows and stuff over the map of the world to sort of indicate air pressure moving around and where the high and low temperatures are going and that sort of thing. And you see like a depiction of like a hurricane forming over the ocean, and it will show those little swirls and stuff. I feel like this resembles that one a little bit. You've sort of like got bluey green on the back, and then these sort of other strokes kind of swirling around in there as well. So I like I like the colours on this one, but I'm not entirely sure if I consider this one a finished piece. Shockwave says the splatter one could be called Modern Mind, but again, look, there we are. Let's just put some glaze on it all of a sudden. Well, this piece is called Modern Mind, and it's supposed to try and be a depiction of the complicated, interconnected mind of a human being. If you imagine all these little blotches of color as the different neurons that fire off when a person is thinking, and maybe the chaotic nature of this is supposed to represent a person being overwhelmed by all of the many distractions in the modern world, or maybe it's a neurodivergence ADHD mind or something. There we go. See, another one of my busy ones, and this is what I'd call sort of like a real atypical busy one for me. Here we are. Again, you'll see that it does bear a bit of resemblance to the previous one here. You can certainly see some things in common with it. The use of a lot of different colors, sort of like quite sort of bold, strong brush strokes. You can certainly see distinct sort of lines and shapes in there. But compared to that one, though, I wouldn't say that there's exactly a defined image in this one. I can't say to you, "Oh yes, this is supposed to be a city or a park," or if anything, I feel like this is like if someone dropped some acid or something and they looked at a completely blank sheet of paper over time, this is probably what would fill their vision if they started trying to imagine something being there. I don't know. But I like what I do really like painting is I like the use of black and white against each other, and I like having those jagged lines and stuff, and in a way this kind of thing sort of resembles, again, I'm bringing this one up for absolutely no good. Have I got any better doodles in here, or is it literally just this page? It's literally just this page. But like if on here, like you'll see the way that you can just do lots of lines together and branching out, and just it's just just adding to things and layering things until it gets to the point where, for me, it becomes busy enough that I go, well, it's somewhat aesthetically pleasing, I suppose. There's there's maybe something to it. But yeah, this one's I guess this one's distinct because it's just got lots of very jagged edges and angles in it and all the rest of it. But I personally quite like this one. This is the thing. Some of the stuff that I paint, I'll think, nah, I'm not sure if that's any good. And then maybe like the Pollocksy one, I'll go, well, other people might like it. This is one where I think, well, I think this is maybe to my taste, but perhaps not to many other people's taste. But there we go. Um, this is one that I'd done, finished a little while back. I think this is another one that I stuck on the eBay. Now, I'm not fully pleased with this one because it's not properly symmetrical. It's supposed to be the silhouette of a person, but as you can see, they've got one shoulder much bigger than the other. The problem sometimes when I'm painting is I don't trust myself not to ruin something. So I feel, okay, I've got to a certain point with this now. You know, you've got this form in the middle. You've got this sort of green aura coming off of it. If I were to try and go and correct the shoulder and make it more symmetrical, would I accidentally ruin it in the process? That's what I sometimes worry about. But this is, again, if you sort of look at inside of the figure, it used to be once upon a time, again, one of my sort of very busy paintings. And then what I obviously decided at some point is I'm not really a fan of the direction this one's going in. I'm going to fill in a load of black and completely repurpose what's already been painted into something else. So again, you can come up with some kind of an explanation for what this figure is. You go, oh, the brimming creativity of the human spirit beaming off of the figure, all, blah blah blah, the potential, you know, all of that crap. What else do I do? Do I have anything here worth showing? Oh, okay, yeah, I quite like this one. I am quite pleased with this one. So this one, started off years back. Me and another person, we decided to like do life painting of each other. Obviously, you know, this isn't explicit. Don't worry, boys and girls. But I dug this out ages back, and I was like, maybe there's something I can do with this. Maybe I can turn the face into a skull. And in the end, it sort of turned into. I call this one the Golden God. I like the phrase Golden God because I'm a fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But I like to imagine that this is some big golden, you know, he's got a skull for a face. Maybe he's the god of death, maybe he's the god of life, maybe he's the god of both, and maybe that's what the Golden God is. He sort of handles both of it, but clearly you've got clashing, if symbolism is the word there, but the fact that a skull generally representing death, but nonetheless you've also got this very sort of lush green and water and all the rest of it down here. And what I've had some fun with recently is that I can take pictures of my paintings and put them into different AI things, and they will animate the paintings for me. And I've done, there's a video up on the channel, I think, called Digital Doodling from a few weeks back, where a couple of the paintings were some of the stuff that I put into there. And I think this was one of them, if I remember correctly. But it's really, really cool to sort of see stuff that I've made and then see it come to life and actually move and actually have more life in it than just the stagnant still image. But this of all the ones I've got at the moment is probably one of my favorites, because I think what I really like, I was saying to you before, what I really like about certain paintings is when I impress myself with something, when I go, oh, I made something that looks nicer or better than I thought I was capable of doing. And for me, this is one of them. This is sort of like a bit of a high benchmark for me in terms of trying to paint actual things and objects, recognizable stuff rather than just abstract forms. And I feel that it's recognizable what this is. There's not really any question to it there. So yeah, I quite like this one that I've done here. Now, there's a few more that I'm going to show off as sort of like works in progress, and we have got quite a few works in progress going on here. And then there are others that I'm really not sure what to do with it. Right, I'll put it this way then. If that represented sort of like a high benchmark of something that I'm pleased with in terms of trying to paint an actual figure or a form or something, these are ones that I'm a little bit more iffy about. These ones I think are the sort of thing that like you know, a secondary school arts GCSE student might do in their spare time or whatever. This is, I don't know what this is. This again, I think this was a person at one point. And then what I tend to like to do is I like to just corrupt things and add stuff until it looks strange. So we've kind of got a central figure here who, for some reason, maybe has lots of legs. And then I don't know if that's supposed to be a rib cage or armor or what. You can just about see a face hiding behind there, and then a great big flaming eye. But this is one of those that, again, I look at it and I go, I obviously I like my sort of my trademark style and the use of colors and all the rest of it, but I'm not convinced it's finished, and I'm maybe not convinced that it's very good. I feel like there's more that I could probably do to this to bring out whatever I'm trying to get from it. But again, sometimes I'll get to a certain point with things and I'll leave it because I think to myself, I've reached a certain point with it. I don't want to accidentally overdo it, because that happens. That does happen a lot. There'll be a lot of times where I'll be painting something and I'll overdo it. I'll go too far. I'll add too many things. I'll make a wrong decision about putting a load of color somewhere, or I'll generally just make a mistake while I'm doing it, and I go, all right, well that's that one done for the time being. The good thing though about my method with painting is a lot of it is very much sort of improvised anyway. You know, I don't often come into something with a clear idea of what it is that I'm going to be doing. So in that sense, it's kind of like no wrong answers. You know, you can just do whatever and it's fine. But and this is another example of that one as well. Again, what is it? It's some kind of a dragon. I don't know, and a moon up there as well. But I feel that these are sort of companion pieces to one another in a way. You know, they've got a similar kind of style, a similar kind of vibe to each other. Um, Interestingly as well, you can probably notice that they've got similar color scheme. That there are greens, there are reds, there are oranges. They've got that in common with each other, even though I might have started one painting months and months before the other. And what I'll do sometimes, as a bit of fun, is I'll get 3 or 4 paintings out in front of me, and I'll get maybe 2 or 3 colors to work with, and I'll work on 4 paintings at once. I'll have one in front of me, do some bits, add some little bits, go, that looks nice, put it to the side, get another painting, add some more little bits, but I'll be using just the colors I've got in front of me at the time. So what can sometimes end up happening is that then I'll then have a set of sort of a few paintings that I've done extra things to and I'm happy with, but mysteriously they all seem to suddenly have the same color scheme as one another because I've only been using those specific colors, putting them over the top there. But we'll call this Spider Lady and Mr. Dragon. There we go. Those are some great names, aren't they? This one, this is probably allowed. I don't think the YouTube censors will be too bothered by this one. It appears to have incredibly large nipples. I don't know why I did that. That's not a very that's not a common stylistic choice that I make here. Again, this is one that I think at some point started out as a bit of a self-portrait because, you know, as you can see, there's some similar hair there. There was a beard under there at one point in time, but then since then I decided, you know what he really needs? A big creepy smile with too many teeth and some sunglasses, obviously. So it's kind of like it's weird. It's not often that I paint things that I say to myself, this looks really weird, but this is one of them. It's beyond explanation. There's something really strange and creepy going on here. Looks like some creature from another dimension that only emerges in a horror film or something. And again, I cannot explain the nipples. I don't know what the deal with these nipples are. Maybe you're looking at the teeth and thinking, what the hell's going on there? But again, this is one that I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether I consider this one finished or not. Again, sometimes it's hard for me to tell. I feel like compared to some other paintings I've done, I quite like the color and sort of like the shading, I guess you'd call it, sort of like the fact that you've got these variations in tone on the skin, and it maybe somewhat lines up with what you'd see in something more photorealistic, the way that light would end up affecting the color and stuff. But a lot of this is I'll mess around with it as I go, and occasionally I'll land on something. I go, oh, that looks quite good, but I never, you know, like, I never did art in school or anything like that. So anything that I'm able to do is completely self-taught over time. But yeah, I think I like this one, although I don't think I'd have a very good time trying to explain to people what it is or what it's supposed to mean. But there we are. um Now we're gonna okay, right. I think I've shown you most of the best ones so far. So now we're moving into the rest. Um, oh, we've got one more just in the theme of sort of strange, horrific looking figures. We've got this, which is pretty sinister. Some kind of a demon or something. Some strong uses of black in this one as well. But I think my favorite things to paint, as you've probably gathered, is abstract expressionists, bright, busy paintings, Van Gogh Starry Nights, and weird looking people. There we are. Um, so if you want to see one of my busy paintings in its infancy before it sort of gets to where it ends up going, then this might be a good example for you. So as you can see, we've got sort of like, again, lots of different colors here. We've got some sort of streaks of black all over the place, which really stand out from the rest of the colors. There's an attempt to do some tiny little wee houses, which look a little bit shit in the corner there. But this is definitely one that's in the middle of its life here. It's not yet finished, but we've got a rough idea maybe of the general shape and form of the painting. That obviously there's something distinct in this top area compared to what there is down here. So maybe this is the sky, this is the ground, but ultimately where this ends up going, I can't say. And it could be that I continue on with what I've already done with it, making that this is the sky. Sorry, that's the sky, that's the ground, and continue with that accordingly. Or maybe one day I'll flip it on its side and decide to turn it into something completely different and just do a bunch of little dashes up the top there, add in a load of black, whatever. But yeah, I'll show you some more that are sort of like works in progress where I don't know where they're headed at the moment. So that is definitely one of them. Um, this is another. Again, as you can see, there's a vague sort of outline of some stuff here. We've got what looks like it could be some mountains or hills, some dark clouds up there, kind of a face or a mask or something in the middle, and then just lots of little brush strokes there. But again, this is sort of if anything, this is sort of like a template almost for what will later get piled on it in more detail and more colors. But it's just a rough sort of outline of where more things could end up going with it at some point. Average Joe says reminds me of Francis Bacon stroke Van Gogh. Well, I suppose I'd have to. I guess I'd have to. Again, I feel almost a little bit fraudulent when I try and say this stuff sometimes because I think it makes me sound like I've got a much higher opinion of myself and making art and being an artiste than I actually do. But if I were to describe influences on my artwork, I suppose Van Gogh would be a very strong influence because I can actually point to Van Gogh as an artist that I say, yes, I really like the stuff that he made, which I just don't feel that way about most stuff too often. Right, here are some really early paintings. So these are like very early on in their life cycle here. Again, you can see some of what will end up becoming something much busier. If I get one of my busy paintings out here and hold them side by side, you can probably see some commonalities. You can probably imagine that once upon a time this painting may have resembled this painting before I layered more and more things on it. But so this is something that's kind of just sitting there waiting for something to be done with it. And I've got a few of those as well, stuff that I can pick up at some point and say, okay, I've got a rough shape, I've got a rough outline. There's definitely room to add more things here. There's more to be done with this. And yet another example would be this as well. So sometimes these things I might spend literally 3 minutes. Probably this stuff probably took me less than 5 minutes to do it as it currently is, and I would have literally just sat there, put on a bunch of color, and said, okay, what else? We'll do some lines. We'll do some lines of some different colors. At some point, I start deciding if I want to do lines at different angles out from the other lines, and there might be a degree of uniformity to it, as sort of chaotic as it looks. You can almost see some internal rules to it, so to speak, that there's sort of like a distribution of red across most of the painting, that you have these black blotches sort of in mainly on sort of the perimeter of it. You've got black in the middle, but the thicker black bits are on the outside. And again, that's kind of part of the method I do when I'm sort of doing this improvisational kind of painting, is that I'll come up with, I guess you could call it rules, but just something to follow that I'm doing at that particular moment in time. So I'll decide, right, okay, all of the bits of black in the painting are now going to have a small white streak in the middle of them. And then I'll go around and all of the bits of black in the painting then have a little white streak in them. And then I go, and all of the white streaks are going to have two little red dots next to them. And I go through and all the little white streaks have two little red dots next to them. And that's just, I suppose that's the actual thinking process of how it ends up with stuff like this. And again, if I'll show you this one, which is one that I showed you earlier, you can see again maybe some of these rules replicating themselves across the painting. That for all of these white lines and dashes, you can see that most of them are over the top of slightly larger, thicker black dashes. Or there might be certain lines that have got if I can show you like this little bit in the corner here where you can see lots of little lines, but again, that's another rule where I'll go, okay, for every long structure in the painting, I'll do lots of little buts along the side, and that's a new thing that I'm adding to it. So that's what Joe said here. You need to get ChatGPT to give it your thoughts on your art. ChatGPT, right, especially the older version before they updated it in the summer, was known for its sycophancy. And as you can imagine, I showed the stuff to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT went, wow, oh, this is a really unique painting. The way that you're using these colors and the way against each other, yes, this is really, really layering on the praise there. And then I'll ask it things like, well, how much do you think I could sell it for, ChatGPT? And it was giving me valuation. Like, it wasn't doing anything ridiculous. It wasn't telling me that I'd sell these things for thousands of pounds or anything. But it was giving me valuations sort of between double and 3 times the amount that I would usually look to sell it for. Now, I have been told in the past I sell my stuff too low in the first place usually anyway. But taking ChatGPT's advice, I went, all right, then, you know what? I'm going to put a few of these on eBay and I'll do some prices in the lower end of the range of what GPT has said it's worth. And surprise, surprise, none of those have been sold. So I feel like GPT might have been glazing me just a little bit too much. This is one that, again, not often am I attempting to do specific physical objects, and this is sort of like supposed to be some kind of a landscape here. Obviously you can see water. I think it's supposed to be like we've got some cliffs here, a hill there, some water there, so it's somewhere on the coast, somewhere coastal. And the sky here, I suppose you can see like the Van Gogh influences here, because I definitely take a lot of Starry Night with me whenever I'm painting sky in certain pictures. But I'm not one thing that I am pleased with in this picture is the grass. I know it's a really simple little thing, but I've realized that certain types of little basic brush strokes lined upon each other over and over again do make quite convincing little tufts of grass, which is quite nice. But the overall picture I'm not so sure about. I feel that there's stuff to do with like the angles of the cliffs or the depth perception of how far they get away from you that isn't quite right. Again, that I don't have a natural I'm not naturally attuned to, that I know how to do. It's stuff that I would have had to have learned properly, where you sketch it out initially and you have lines that get slightly tighter next to each other the further back it goes, and that makes it more sort of realistic with the depth of you're looking at something that's supposed to go farther away. This obviously doesn't have that, so probably there is, well, clearly there's sort of like an amateurish quality to it. Sometimes when I'm being quite self-critical, I'll go, yes, this is like what a very talented child would make. So this is one that at some point either I'd add more things to it, or this would be a candidate for something that I'd probably just scrap and completely redo. Or at the very least, I'd take certain bits of it that I like and then repurpose it. So maybe I'd paint everything black apart from just this little bit up here. Or maybe I'd keep the grass against the water because I like that, but then repurpose everything else. So that's stuff that I can sometimes end up doing with it. This one, again, sort of mid stages, not sure how it's panning out. I'm happier with the bottom half of it than I am the top half of it. The top half has got too much empty real estate that's not really doing anything there. But down at the bottom, I feel that we've got a nice little sort of like clearing with some tents. You can sort of see. Again, I'm pleased with this one because it's me deliberately trying to paint actual things and not just random shapes and lines, and it does resemble the things that I'm trying to paint somewhat, and that's usually a good little marker of all right, you're doing all right there. But overall, I'm not that keen on this one. Um, I'll probably end up doing something different with it. And we are getting to the stage now where most of the things I'm showing you the same kind of deal. Yet another work in progress. You can see the what would end up becoming another one of my very busy paintings with lots of things going on. But right now it's still the color is still quite thick. There's not all of these little defined spots and lines everywhere. It's waiting for more to be done to it as I decide what exactly it's going to be. But you can see that we've got the feature of a swirl there. We've got what looks like it could be a few buildings down there, and some sort of like jagged triangles there, which might end up being mountains. So it might be something that I continue on with what's already been laid out there, or again, it might be that I pick it up one day and go, I'm going to do a big black line right over the middle of the painting, and then we're going to see where it goes from there. Have we got anything else left here? So this is what I describe as another one of the Pollocksy ones, because it's it's I mean there is stuff about it that I do find aesthetically pleasing. Like if we look really closely in here, I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but sort of like where the white has been put on, where the whites are sort of blended with some of the other colors, and you've got sort of thicker, brighter bits of white, and then sort of more wispy bits as it sort of seeps into other stuff there. I do think that looks really nice. If I look really, really close into it, you can see where it's dried as the paint was sort of mixed with the other paint, and it creates quite a nice effect. But overall, it's just a big mess. There's not anything you can really seize on there to look at. There's no central object or figure or form. It very much just is color. It's a big vomit of color there. But nonetheless, when I describe something as Pollocksy, what I mean is I'll paint something that I feel looks somewhat aesthetically pleasing, but didn't take me too much effort to create. And I will imagine that I could look up some famous abstract expressionist painting that's worth millions or something, and perhaps it wouldn't look that different from this. And I think to myself, was I just born at the wrong time? If I could just hop in a time machine and present all these things as brand new to people, would they go, "Oh my God, you're a visionary. We've never thought of this before." But paradoxically, it's one of these things that on the one hand, some people will look at it and think it's got virtually no merit to it whatsoever. Other people could look at it and mistake it for some abstract expressionist piece that's worth vast amounts of money. That's just the way it goes. But Claire King says, "Oh my God, I want that." Well, Claire, I've got some slightly bad news for you. You can absolutely have it if you want it. However, this one is slightly cursed because on the back it's got a large bit of white acrylic paint that obviously tipped out at some point and stuck to the back of the canvas. And I dare not try to remove it because I'm worried about taking some of the canvas with me. Yeah, if you do want it, get in touch with me. Just be forewarned that it's got this great big splodge on the back there. But there we are. Claire also asks, why do you have a picture of yourself in the back? Yes, I have explained this one before, but I'll explain it again. So at work, at one of our staff meetings, they had like a little team building, feel good about yourself exercise where we all got pictures of us and we had to hand the pictures around to everyone at work, and everyone had to write one word to describe you, like something nice and affirming about you. And then we all ended up with these pictures of us that had all of these nice words and messages and stuff. So I'm generally described as being kind, fun, and a little bit mad. Which is probably okay. And once I had it, I thought, you know what, that's a really nice thing to have up on the wall because it's nice sometimes to look at something to anchor yourself if you're not feeling fantastic and go, oh, look at all those nice things that people said about you. So that's why that's got a place on my wall. I'm not usually in the habit of hanging pictures of myself around the place. I'm not that full of myself. Here's another one that could be finished, could be a big pile of shit. I'm not really sure. It's this one. As you can see, we've got sort of a very malformed skull in the middle there, a very malformed cartoonish skull. And then as you sort of zoom out, it begins to resemble one of my more sort of busy abstract paintings as well. But I'm not, the reason I say I'm not convinced is if it's finished is just because sometimes I'll look at stuff and I'll feel instinctively that there's more that could be done to it, or that there's too many large empty gaps. As you can tell from the way that a lot of my paintings go, I'm not a fan of big empty gaps. I like there to be detail in most areas, and this has lots of sort of blocks of color here as I've sort of painted it in a kind of a warped grid kind of thing. It makes me think a little bit about some of the art that you saw on the Mighty Boosh as well. I think they had a skull on it that maybe resembles it a little bit, but yeah, a skull caught in a big abstract spider's web or something. I'm not sure. Claire King says, "Did you use a mirror to make that?" um, and then is there anything I've got left here? Oh, okay, I've got. Wow, I'm really. You know what? I probably shouldn't have front loaded it by showing you all the best stuff at the start of the stream. But then again, maybe it's best that I showed off the best stuff, because if I was showing off all the shit stuff, I doubt people would continue on watching until the end when I showed off the better stuff. But this is one that's middling. Again, this is another one of my attempts to paint like actual things, and in this case I did like a little house and a fence and some sky or whatever. But this is another one that got rescued when I don't even think this was from a canvas, actually. I think this is from an actual canvas sheet that must have been part of a book or something. But I don't know why I've got this one in particular. Sometimes I just don't throw things out, but that was in the pile, so there we are. There's another one there. I hope you found that interesting, guys. As you can tell, I've got a rather sort of a nonchalant way of talking about my art. I really I don't know. I've got a strange relationship with the way that I present the stuff that I do. Obviously, if I make something and people like it, I like to hear that positive feedback and I like to be complimented on it. But at the same time, I think what it is that I'm very aware that people's taste in art is very subjective. So the things that I look at in my own paintings that I think, oh, that's really nice, or oh, that's no good, and whatever, it's an assessment of that stuff that's entirely through my own eyes, through my own mind, if that makes sense. And I could look at some stuff and have a completely different view on it than other people have looking at stuff. So I always feel a bit weird about presenting stuff as this sort of, oh, this is, this is a piece that took me a really long time, and it's a really, all of that kind of stuff. Because I feel, I don't know, maybe that kind of way of doing it just feels a bit inauthentic to me. I'm not sure. It's a funny one. But nonetheless, I hope you've enjoyed me sharing some of my artwork with you. And just additionally to mention, I do this in my spare time. I take commissions from people if anyone ever wants me to paint them a particular thing, either themed around something or a particular interpretation of a person or a place, or just something that looks big and exciting and bold. I'm always happy to do that. And likewise, if any of the things that you've seen here, you think perhaps I'd like to have a little slice of the Swiss artwork pie, then just get in touch with me, and I can send you some closer pictures of it, and maybe it can be yours at some point as well. And indeed, if any of you guys out there, I know Average Joe, for example, you do photography. In fact, this here that I've got up here, this is that is one of Average Joe's. That was up on the wall far longer ago than the picture of me there. But I know Average Joe does photography. I'm interested, sort of, if any of the rest of you have artistic endeavors, or if any of you are into painting the same way that I am, either. But anyhow, that's a good way to kill 45 minutes and not talk about politics, apart from the self-portrait looking like a cross between Trump and Corbyn. But there we are. Anyway, folks, thank you for joining me. I hope you've found this interesting. I'll catch you all later on. Ta-ta.